So, welcome my friends and participants for the GAN course. So, my lectures would be divided into the first part will be on regressions, loss functions, and how you use different type of loss functions for estimation, prediction, and all these things. Then I will switch to the areas of some stochastic programming, reliability programming with examples. Only issue is that I am willing to hand you the codes. The codes are in MATLAB. So because they have been written by me, by my students, you can use them. But I am not going to share it immediately. So whatever the discussions with the solved examples would be, the outputs and the codes you can use that accordingly. But obviously giving due acknowledgement to me or my students accordingly. Okay, so for the first part we'll consider is regression and related areas. Okay. Now whenever you are doing any estimation, any prediction, so your main idea is to find out the best estimate or the statistic from the sample. So you have a population, you pick up a sample and you find out the estimate and then try to basically find out how good or bad your estimate is. So we know about unbiasedness, we know about consistency. So in the unbiasedness case, we will try to find out the expected value. In the consistency, we try to find out how fast the variance basically decreases. And there are many rules, Rao-Kramer, UMView method, and all these things are there. Now generally whenever we are picking up the sample, the statistic from the sample has some distribution as such. So given the distribution, many of the cases it may not be possible that whether we are able to find out the best estimate considering the different type of stopping criteria or rules which you have. So different type of rules which you have. So we use a type of concept which is known as the loss function, and we try to basically use that loss function in order to estimate or predict the parameter and also the functional form of the parameters. Like in the regression case, we have basically to find out the betas, and based on the betas we try to predict the y hats. And when we do that, our main aim is basically in general would be first to estimate and find out the best betas in the sense that you are able to minimize the variances, find out the expected value of beta hat which is equal to the beta, and then proceed. But in general, in many of the practical examples, it is required that rather than only estimating the betas, you need to go to the second stage where you want to basically predict the y hats. So when you want to predict the y hats, there would be a sort of differences in the first stage when you take beta and beta hat. Then using the beta hat, when you predict the y's, there would be a difference between the y and y hat. So your main aim would basically to be minimizing the errors both at the first stage and the second stage, and it can continue from stage to stage, but we will only consider these two important factors where you try to utilize the concept of the loss functions to order to minimize certain loss. And what is that loss? We're going to come to that. So generally f, which is the cumulative distribution function or the distribution function, is not completely known because the parameters are not known, and we want to basically predict or estimate the parameters within a certain bound given some characteristics. Now in the parametric model, the assumed functional form of f may involve different type of parameters. So the parameters may be given fixed and we have to predict it, or it can change. So depending on the learning, you use different type of Bayes rule to find it. So we will only concentrate in the first part where the different type of loss functions are there and how you basically try to estimate or predict that. So the objective in point estimation, obviously once given the point estimation, you can find out the interval estimates, then you can go for the hypothesis testing. It can be for the univariate case, it can be for the multivariate case, and the multivariate case would be modeled accordingly depending on what you think the loss function would be, whether it is dependent loss function or it's independent loss function, whether you can take the loss function using a convex combinations. All these things can be done in a very simple manner depending on the practicality. So the objective in point estimation is to utilize the information in the given set, which is basically x1 to xn. Now note down one important thing, this n, small n, which we consider initially is fixed. So that will basically depend on what the sampling you want to do, what is your budgetary constraints and all these things. It can be monetary constraint, it can be physical constraints that you do not have number of people to do the work, or your data set is limited. So depending on the value of n, which we will consider in the initial case as fixed, you use a different type of estimation techniques such that you find out Tn, T suffix n, which is basically the statistic from the sample, try to predict how close Tn is with respect to the theta, and then complete your job. And your main aim would be that you are trying to basically find out the parameter or the functional form of the parameter. Now imposing consistency and unbiasedness in all the cases, which is actually required, may not give us the right answer. We are not able to find it, but still we need to find out what is the best, so-called best estimate, because you have to complete our job, finish our job, do some prediction, do some estimation, do some forecasting and proceed accordingly. Now a very good idea would be to locate an optimal. So whatever the characteristics of the optimal estimators would basically depend on what is the scenario based on which you are doing. Within the class of consistent means basically unbiased and this consistent estimator sets which you have, such that you are as close as possible to the actual parameter value. So in the univariate case or the multivariate case. Now generally we see that a very nice way of trying to handle it is to use a loss function. So loss function is basically some sort of prediction error you are going to take, and this would basically be given by different forms of loss function depending on what you think would be the prediction error or the forecasting error. So we consider the loss function to basically be a functional form of the differences between theta and Tn. So if your theta is basically the parameter which you want to estimate, you will basically have theta hat. So theta can be consider that in the case when you have the normal distribution, theta can be the mu, and theta hat can be the corresponding statistic which you get from the sample. In another case, maybe say for example you want to do find out some convex combination of the parameter values, like say for example you have 3 different factories in Bombay, Delhi and Calcutta, and you producing some products, and you want to find out that what is the average life of the products which are being produced in these 3 factories, and all of them are being sent to different distribution centers throughout India, and then you do a sampling to find out what is the average life of this product with respect to what you have predicted. So obviously when you mix them up, or you want basically bring only the products from Calcutta or from Delhi or Bombay, you want to basically find out maybe a convex combination of the average lifetime of these products. That may be one case. Another case can be, say for example, products are being manufactured and they are being distributed throughout India, but there are complaints with respect to, say for example, the tensile strength, complaints can be with respect to the weight, complaints can be with respect to the, say for example, the length. Tie rods are there, lengths are not fitting. Some products are being bottled in bottles or in cans, there is a weight difference. So when we have that, we will try to basically find out that with respect to the actual variance, how you will basically try to predict whether the variance of that product being manufactured in factory 1 or 2 or 3, there is a difference with respect to the sample which you have taken. Now whenever we have that loss function can be of different forms. Now when we basically have the loss function in the general form, we generally use the squared error loss function.
Difference between theta and Tn is not clear. Theta is supposed population mean.
Yes.
Tn could be sample mean.
Yes. It could be sample mean, depending on, it could be the weighted sample mean. It could be, say for example, you are taking the variance. So rather than take for the variance of the whole population, and you basically have 3 different samples, you take the weighted sample variances or standard errors or standard variances of the samples and then try to find it out.
Theta is for population.
Yeah, of the population, any parameter of the population. It can be the mode, it can be the median, it can be convex combination or ratio of the mean to the standard deviation, whatever it is. Now, and theta can be vector or scalar. Now, whenever you are using the loss function, which is a squared error loss, which is we use the ordinary least square method. The main thing is that you try to find out the difference between theta hat and theta, try to find out on an average what is the loss, and then proceed. Now, the reason why this is very popular, even though in the actual case practically it may have some problems, is that it gives you, when you minimize that, when you minimize the expected value of theta hat, what you actually get is basically the variances based on which you want to minimize. So, hence trying to minimize the squared error loss with respect to the distribution which you have, which will give you the actual variance which you want to minimize, such that you are trying to aim that the variances of the theta hat which you are trying to predict is as low as possible. That is why you use the squared error loss function, whether in regression, whether in estimation, and all these things are used. So, theoretically is very nice, practically it may not be very useful where you want to basically do that. Now, generally there are different type of loss functions which I will basically go through, and I will use one of the very interesting loss function which are used practically in marketing, practically is used in manufacturing, it is used in actual theoretical statistics, where you find out that using that loss function you basically are able to cover both nonlinear errors. Why nonlinear errors are important, I will come to that, as well as the case of the squared error loss function which we have already discussed. So, some of them of this loss function is the mod loss functions, where you basically penalize the overestimation and underestimation. So, if you go on to the right hand side, the first quadrant is basically the overestimation which you have. So, you are penalizing the overestimation by some unit. So, if it is 45 degrees line, obviously it means that you are giving equal weightages for on the overestimation. Similarly, the underestimation which is in the red color, if it is also 45 degrees, then you are penalizing the overestimation and underestimation onto the equal extent. Now, some of the examples can be, say for example, where you want to use it, that I am making an investment. It can be in the project, it can be a financial decision, it can be buying a product, buy a house. So, if I win 100 rupees, and in another case if I lose 100 rupees, or if I win 1000 rupees or lose 1000 rupees, my overall sense of profit and loss concept which I get myself would be different. Quantity wise 100 rupees is the same, but if I win 100 rupees and I lose 100 rupees, I am more sad than in the case of losing 100 rupees than winning 100 rupees. So, obviously you will penalize the so called loss functions differently depending on what you think is right or wrong for you. Now, obviously in some of the cases you will see that overestimation would be more penalized than underestimation and vice versa. I am going to come to that within few minutes. So, in this case you penalize in the linear fashion the loss functions with the equal weightages. Now, if this blue line is tilted more towards the y-axis and the red line is also tilted more towards the y-axis, obviously you will mean that you are penalizing both of them of the same quantum, but the overall penalization is of higher degree. If they both of the blue line and the red line become more flatter towards the x-axis, then penalization is there on equal quantum, but they are of less intensity with respect to the first case. So, this is one case of asymmetric linear loss function. These are linear loss functions, remember. So, in this case the blue line is more steeper, which means that you are penalizing the overall overestimation to a higher degree than trying to basically penalize the underestimation which is onto a lower degree. Similarly, you reverse the case. You will basically have overestimation being not penalized while underestimation is penalized more, in this case where the red one is more steeper and the blue one is less steeper. So, obviously you can make uses of this loss function. Now, this is where this problem which I will try to solve using the regression model. Now, Hall variant in the 1960s or 1950s he was an economist, so from the economics point of view, he had proposed a loss function which was basically of a combination of the linear part and the exponential part. So, if you check and consider A and B are the parameters, the scale and shape parameters, they can be changed accordingly. So, no issues about that. Now, consider this, and I'll tell you why the loss functions look like this. Now, if you consider theta hat minus theta to be positive in the first quadrant, then the exponential part. So, the Linux loss function, as you see, as it is mentioned, basically consists of two parts. One is the linear part, which as I mentioned, and another is the exponential part. That's why it is known as Linux loss function, linear exponential loss function. Now, if you consider, say for example, I'll come to what is the value of A within few minutes. So, consider you are in the first quadrant where theta hat minus theta is positive and theta hat minus theta is basically negative in the second quadrant. Now, give a value of A which is positive, slow, and it is greater than 1, say for example. So, if it is greater than 1, and now consider you expand this exponential part. So, if you expand that exponential part, the terms which are there, which is minus A in the bracket theta hat minus theta and minus 1, they cancel out. The first and the second term from the expanded part of the exponential term, they cancel out. So, if you take the second term, third term, fourth term, so on and so forth, which means the exponential part will dominate the linear part. So, hence in the first quadrant, your overestimation would be more penalized than underestimation, which is in the second quadrant. Think what I said. So, if e to the power x and a function e to the power ax, a is positive, then obviously the exponential part will dominate the linear part. So, if it dominates the linear part, then in the first quadrant, as overestimation starts increasing, theta hat minus theta becomes more and more, then exponential parts basically overwhelms the linear part. So, in that case, the overestimation would be more penalized than underestimation. Are you with me? Now, in that case, A is positive. Now, what are the examples? I am going to come to that later. So, and obviously B would only scale it up and down, so there would not be much change in the effect of B, provided you have taken care of A and theta hat minus theta, whatever it is. Again, theta can be linear and can be scalar and vector. Now, actually this loss function came into the notice of the statistician Zellner. He was a very famous Bayesian statistician. It came into his notice in the 1980s, and he had done some pioneering work in trying to basically utilize and try to prove the properties of the Linux loss function in the use of statistics. So, he had given some proofs which are very interesting. I will just state those results and try to utilize them for our calculations, and then without the proofs I will give another few results and the results I will give as it is and try to explain, and as I said, if you want to utilize the codes, you can take it accordingly and use it. Now, invert the picture, make A as negative. So, if A is negative, then obviously the linear part will dominate the exponential part. So, if it dominates the exponential part, then in that case, in the second quadrant, which is basically underestimation will be more penalized than overestimation. So, you will have scenarios where the overall loss for underestimation when theta hat minus theta is negative would be much more problematic for you, both in the prediction point of view, both on the loss point of view, both in the monetary terms, whatever it is. So, obviously in that case also a B factor will just basically increase or decrease the overall quantum of the loss, because it will only scale up or not change the general shape of the loss function which you are trying to utilize. Now, why this loss function is important? Now, consider the value of theta hat both for overestimation being more penalized and underestimation being more penalized, or whatever the combinations which you have. Think that if theta hat minus theta is a very small quantity, the difference is very small. expand that. So we expand that, which means what? The first two terms will be cancelled with respect to minus a theta hat minus theta minus 1. Now the terms which are left, the third term will be a quadratic one, the fourth term will be cubic one, and you will basically consider that accordingly. Now as theta hat minus theta basically is a very small quantity, technically in the many of the cases you can consider theta hat minus theta cube and higher values as tending to 0. So if it is tending to 0, which means that this linear exponential loss function can also be approximated or used to approximate the quadratic loss function which you have just generally seen. So you will basically have, if you expand it, so the expanded form will basically be a square, the term which is remaining, a square in the bracket theta hat minus theta whole square divided by factorial 2, and the cubic part and to the power 4 and all these things, they vanish because you consider them to be 0. So obviously that becomes a quadratic loss function multiplied by some constants. So you are trying to basically replace the quadratic loss function by an exponential loss function using the ranges of a's or theta minus theta hat accordingly. So this loss function can also be utilized in place of quadratic loss function. Now examples. So consider, I'll just talk about first, and civil engineering examples most probably would be there, but I'll talk about the civil engineering example first. So you are building a dam, and the actual height of the dam actually should be 120 feet or whatever the height is. And consider two cases. Case 1, the person makes, the engineer, he makes a height to 122 feet. And case 2, the person estimates the height to be and builds the height to 118 feet. So infer the difference, and actual height as I mentioned is 120. So if you basically find out the difference between 120 and 118 and 120 and 122, so it is basically plus minus 2, square them up, considering that you are using the square error loss function. If you square them up, in both the cases it is 4, 4. Yes. So you will basically utilize that and solve the problem, which is fine. You have solved the problem, you are happy. Now let us move away from theory, come to practicality. Consider the first case where it is 122 feet. The initial cost is much more than the cost which is there for 120 feet. So man-hour loss has been there. There has been some cost overrun, so there is a positive cost there. Now think on the flip side in the positive sense. A flood comes, then the probability or the propensity of the flood to breach that height of the dam, provided the height is 120 feet, would be very less. Now take that scenario and then compare that with the second scenario. Scenario 2, 118. So the difference was minus 2. So obviously you have saved a lot of money, man-hour, material, time, over things. So you are very happy. Consider what if a flood comes. The propensity and the probability of the flood breaching the dam is much more higher. So there can be catastrophic environmental loss, human beings can die, there can be huge loss of property, so on and so forth. So I would be more inclined to use a loss function, which is the Linux loss function, for prediction of the height of the dam, where I consider that underestimation would be more penalized than overestimation. So obviously I will use a value of A accordingly, such that in the second quadrant it will be much steeper, in the first quadrant it would not be that steep, right? Now consider the second example. You have a huge electrical circuit and there are vacuum circuit breakers, which are very sophisticated fuses. And you consider the warranty life or the guarantee life of those vacuum circuit breakers. Say for example there are 6 months. So within 6 months you have to change, because it's a very sophisticated machine. If you don't, there's a huge catastrophic loss. The machine can break down and there can be loss of production, loss of man hours, people may be hurt, accidents, so on and so forth. Now you think you predict this warranty life as in both the cases, case 1 and case 2. Case 1 you take as 8 months, Case 2 you take as 4 months. I am just taking this plus minus 2 as just an example. So if you use the quadratic loss function, in the first case it would be 2 square, which is 4. In the second case it is minus 2 whole square, it is also 4. So you are happy, you complete the work. So you think that prediction, under prediction, over prediction are of equal importance, and you complete your task. Now think what happens in the practical sense. Consider, so that 6 months means what? Within that 6 months you will stop the machine, check the circuit breakers, change them. So in the first case, if it is overestimation, what you will be do? You will try to stop the machine after the 6 months. So there may be cases where there can be a catastrophic loss due to surge of voltage, for a few workers may be killed, production may stop, and there can be huge catastrophic loss. So even in the initial stages you thought you will try to produce much more, but they can be, due to overestimation, there can be losses which can have a huge catastrophic negative impact. Consider on the other side the negative value, which is minus 2. Now in that case obviously production would be less, but the flip side, on the positive end side, would be that you stop the production after 4 months, rectify the machine, change the circuit breaker. So even if you had a stoppage of work, stoppage of production, but still the probability or the propensity or the chance of having a catastrophic loss is much less. So in this case, overestimation would be more penalized than underestimation. Clear? There can be different examples, like say for example you can use in marketing or in finance. Consider the finance. So these were two examples which were from engineering side. So consider in the marketing aspect. So you have, let me give the finance aspect. So say for example you want to find out this can be another thing. Say for example you are trying to basically find out what is the price of a product, or trying to basically do some cost accounting or a survey of the overall financial structure. Now it happens that if you do not give the actual financial things to the government or to the regulatory agency, you may be fined, right? But if you do give it, obviously you are not fined, but you have to spend a huge amount of money to do a nice balance of your balance sheet and the profit and loss account, and what are the cost structures, profit and structures of the company. So obviously here this value of A can be positive or negative depending on what you think would be more catastrophic for you. So would you like to pay a more penalty on the tax front, or would you think that you are able to take care of the tax front by doing a more judicious choice of your balance sheet, such that the predictions of overestimation and underestimation based on the value which should be the total tax which you are going to pay can be made accordingly. So there can be different type of examples. In the marketing case also, you want to sell a product, what should be the price? Consider the product, or what should be the warranty life? Considering this, let me give this warranty life example. So you think the warranty life of a product should be 1 year, and you have floated a different type of product in the market, and that's a new product in the market. There are other competitors also who have just come into the market. Consider the warranty life actually should be, say for example 1 year, and in one case you think you should basically give about 14 months, which is plus 2. In another case you should basically give as 10 months, which is minus 2. Now consider the loss, or so in the case when you are trying to basically consider the example of the theoretical sense, plus and minus whole square, 4 is fine for you. You solve the problem and find out what should be the warranty life of the product which you float in the market. Now consider that you are trying to understand on the practical sense. So you give a warranty life of 14 months. So obviously people like us would be more tempted to buy that product because your warranty life is much higher. So initially you sell the product more in the market. So you make a good market share capture. But what happens in actually the probability of the products failing before that 14 months would be much higher, because they should fail in around 12. So obviously you have to pay compensation to your customers. So initial loss of profit was there is now being compensated in the negative way by a loss. Consider the other way. You basically give a warranty life of 10. So obviously people would basically buy your competitor's product, so you lose the market, but the overall EMI scheme or the equal monthly installment scheme for this type of products, or say for example the product can be a washing machine or a fridge, whatever, people will be tempted to buy those in and around the month of, say for example 12 months. So initial loss is being basically compensated by the overall profit you may make. Profit means the extra amount of money which you can make, considering people would be more tempted to go for the EMI. So in this example, market example, what is the overall value of A, you can basically taper it or make it according to the example which you think. So for the finance, for the marketing, for the engineering examples, or the accounting examples, you can make the loss functions accordingly and make it and as per your requirement. So this is the first example which says that consider a company plans to launch a new product, like the refrigerator with the third last example which I gave, in the consumer market. Also suppose the similar products from different manufacturers already exist in the market, so they are there. Then the company is expected to give some warranty life or guarantee life for the particular product. That's the refrigerator, when it should fail, and if it fails, that you will have service engineers to take care of of this product. Now if the value of the warranty, or the value means in years, or months or weeks, is more than the average time of failure for the product, then the aforesaid mentioned company needs to replace the damaged products and compensate their customers. Or on the other case, if they do not replace the product, they face litigation charges for the products which are not placed. So if it can be, think it is a car or some more costly equipment, obviously these litigation charges and such would be of much more financial consequences for you. On the other hand, if the warranty life is less than the average failure time of the similar product available in the market, then the customers are willing to buy the refrigerators or whatever product you are selling from the competitors who assure a higher warranty life. That means you have made a prediction of 10 with respect to the 12 which is actually should be. From the competitors who assure a higher warranty period, under such a situation it is definitely advisable to estimate the warranty life using an asymmetric loss function, but the values of A which you will use would depend on what you think would be more problematic for you. Is it that you win the market share initially and then lose it later on as the litigation increases, or you basically have a small market share initially and then try to basically sell the product depending on your higher warranty when they compare with your competitor. So you decide it accordingly. The second example which I said was basically of the civil engineering building the dam. So it basically is exactly what is stated. Builds the height 120 with respect to 122 to 118, and then for the case where it is a quadratic loss, no problem. For a case when you consider the practical case, obviously positive and negative would have an effect. So you will be more worried of under prediction, so you will try to penalize under prediction more. So A would be negative. Third example, as I mentioned about the electrical one, there is you want to estimate the warranty life of the vacuum circuit breakers, and as I mentioned, it's either 6 months with respect to 8 or 6 or 4. So plus minus 2 doesn't make any sense in the quadratic loss case, because you may make the predictions accordingly. While in the practical sense, an under prediction would be fine, but over prediction would be problematic because there is a catastrophic loss. So obviously you will consider A to be positive and then accordingly model your problem. Now we will start something to do with the practicality of, now the problems I will take a live data set, but the initial theoretical results I will just state. I am not going to prove that because it is not required for you also. Now again Zellner comes into the picture. So in 1994, these I am mentioning just for your interest. If you are interested, you can check up. So Zellner comes up with a very interesting loss function for forecasting, and it is quite interesting in the sense. So basically you have the losses divided into two components. One is known as the goodness of fit and one is the precision of estimation. So goodness of fit and precision of estimations are basically means that how do you go in a regression model, in a very simple regression model. whatever the actual metric can be. It can be root mean square error later on, or minimum absolute deviation, whatever it is. So you first find out the difference of the predicted value and the actual value, which is the error. Find out the error for different time periods, square the errors, add them up. So that is the total error which you have. Now you will basically step back and try to find out that what is required for you to find out. So in the errors, when you are trying to find out for the prediction, I will come to the model later on. So when you have the errors, the actual thing which is not known to you is basically the beta values or the parameters. So you can have different forms of betas, but I will consider the beta as simple as it is. So you will basically partially differentiate the square of the sum of the squares of the errors with respect to betas, put to 0, solve them, and your life is done. You are happy. But now consider you break this overall loss into two components. First is that what is the prediction error or the estimation error of the betas. Once these betas are found out by beta hat, I am using the beta hat in a very general sense. It can be different beta hats. Why? I will come to that later. You find out betas using the beta hats and then plug those betas with respect to the future values of x. Multiply the corresponding betas with the x's, predict the value of y, which is now y hat corresponding to the beta hats, find out the difference of y and y hat, and find out what is the second stage of error. So first stage of error was basically prediction of the betas. Second stage of error was basically prediction of the y and y hats. So now you want to basically minimize both the losses, because there are losses in the sense that you are not able to predict it as it is. So in the first stage you are not able to estimate it, and the second stage you are not able to predict it. So you want to basically combine them. So now I want to give some weights. So if I think that forecasting or prediction is more important for me, so I will give more weights for the differences of y and y hat, whatever the loss I am trying to utilize. And if I think that estimation is more important for me, I will try to give more weightages trying to find out what is the loss with corresponding to finding out the beta and using the beta hats. So this is basically the loss function which you have, which is known as the balanced loss function. You balance that loss functions accordingly. The values of W's are the weights, is a convex combination of the weights. It can be made more complicated depending on if you have different types of regression models to do. It can be different types of prediction you are going to do for different forecasting, the different forecasting for the same product. Like you want to basically predict the sales of a product or predict the prices of the product from different zones of India for some product which can be, say for example, tractors, or which can be, say for example, some medicine. Now in that case you will use the different type of loss functions accordingly, but for the time being I will consider the loss function, which is balanced loss function, as a very simple scalar case. There is no vector here. That means in case if I take vectors, obviously those thetas would become bold, theta which is there. Now you may be asking that what is the use of theta. So what I am considering for this simple case is that I am considering theta is some simple function of beta. Beta is basically the parameters of regression, which is very important for us. And we are also considering a functional form of g theta. So that will change depending on what you want to predict, such that your main task is to predict beta, then predict theta, and then predict the functional form of g theta. So they are all linked together. So what are those examples? I will basically solve or give an example very simply and then try to solve it. So the goodness of fit or the lack of biasness and the precision of estimation would be utilized. The first term basically represents the goodness of fit. That means goodness of fit with respect to what your actual aim is. That means the forecasting or the prediction problems which you have. And the precision of estimation would basically be the estimation problem based on which you have started the problem, which is basically to estimate the betas. Now here for the time being, what I am considering that I am giving a weightages of W to the first part and a weight of 1 minus W to the second part. So if you have three different loss functions, I will give weightages of W1, W2, W3 such that the sum is equal to 1. So which can be converted into a very simple optimization problem, where you basically find out the sum of the errors, try to minimize the errors subject to the constraints, which is basically sum of W1, W2, W3 is 1, W1, W2, W2, W3 being between 0 and 1, and so on and so forth. Those can be done accordingly. Now what is important here to note down, that if you see the loss functions, that is the goodness of fit and the precision estimation as predicted by Zellner, both are quadratic. So g theta minus g Tn, Tn is basically the parameter which you are trying to utilize from the sample, and the value of Tn is basically the best estimate which you are going to take for theta. So if it is beta, so it is beta hat. If it is theta, then it's theta hat. So is the normal mean, so it's mu, then obviously Tn would be the sample estimate. If it is an exponential distribution, so obviously for the exponential distribution you want to find out the mean, so the best estimate would be the sample mean. So you just replace it accordingly from just simple literature which is known to all of us from basic statistics. Now there is there's an important point which I will come later on. So I am saying that you replace it, but obviously there would be a corresponding replacement. What is the corresponding replacement? I am going to come to that later. So the first part, which is g theta minus g Tn, is a functional form, and then you multiply it. So if you see so this part which you have, so this is basically a transpose. So this is a quadratic equation in a vector form, is a quadratic equation. Vector form of the equational form, I am not saying the vector form of the thetas. Thetas are not vectors till now. You can make them vectors. And this is all a quadratic one. Now what can be done is that, depending on your problem, you can replace these quadratic functions by different other loss functions. So in one case it can be a combination of exponential Linux, another case can be Linux and quadratic, and vice versa. So they would give you different results, but that results would depend on what you think is more important for you. So what is important for you may not be important for me. So you cannot compare apples or oranges, in the sense that if I think my level of precision of estimation is more important for me, and for you, you think basically goodness of it is more important for you, so you will basically club them in two ways. Number one, give the weightages accordingly depending on what the practical example is, and also use the loss functions accordingly, such they are able to taper to the needs depending on what you think is important. So if you think prediction here is fine, so you will try to, or the quadratic equation or loss function can be utilized here, so obviously you will use the quadratic loss function. But for the prediction, if you think later on that you want to use the Linux loss function, you will try to use the Linux loss function here, and try to use the quadratic loss function here. If I think that rather than using the Linux function, this should be quadratic and this should be Linux, I can basically replace that and solve it accordingly. So you will get different results, the prediction values would be different, so that will depend on what is the scenario based on which you are trying to basically predict accordingly. So other loss functions can also be replaced here, but I am not going to solve any problem. I will basically take a very simple example where the loss functions are a convex combination of Linux and squared error loss or ordinary least square, and try to solve the simple problem accordingly.
This we are adding these two quantities, like this goodness of fit and this. But are these not of different units? Is it not required that if the loss function which we are building should have a uniform units? If I see the unit of the first term might be different than the unit of
Yes, it's fine, it can be different, no problem. But then I will basically break up the loss functions into different units and try to minimize them separately. Rather than solve.
The parameter W
Is the weight, is a weight, just a weight. 0.5, 0.5, 0.4, 0.6, nothing else. If you want to make it depending on the parameter, so obviously these do not remain W, they become W theta. So you will make it accordingly, but then you have to solve the problem accordingly. But I am not going to go through that.
Can I imagine this to be sort of, if I have to talk in terms of matrix, can I imagine this to be a compromise between, or R square and RMS.
R square and something like that, something like that. So you have different type of measures, root mean square errors, weighted square errors. So all these things I am trying to combine them accordingly. So those take at different you can take different paths. I am taking a combination of them such that I am able to give. So obviously your question can be that if I put W 0 and here 1 minus W as 1, so obviously would I get the actual results which we know in theory? Yes, you will get it. If I put, say for example, 1 minus W as 1 and W and or this as 0 and this as 1, you will get the case as we solve it accordingly. So in the case if you take this as 0 because W as 1, so obviously this becomes the actual regression model which we all know, which we all solve.
So is this a generalized case of like can we consider it as a generalized case of that regression like that? Because
Something like that, yes, yes, yes. But I am not going to, I have not make things complicated because I just wanted to break up that loss function depending on what you think in the practical sense is important. Say for example, for your marketing example, you want to first forecast the warranty life and then predict the prices, right? And then find out what would be a profit or loss. Say for example, you think warranty life prediction is not that important for you. So use quadratic loss function and solve the first part. But you think predicting the prices when you want to compare with your competitors is very important. So if you basically give a lower price, initially you will win a huge amount of market share. So you want to do that. So you will basically penalize your loss function in such a way that you will use the Linux loss function. You got it? So you will taper it accordingly. Okay. Now I will try to utilize, I am switching to another concept, and this is now utilized in a quite nice way in marketing, in statistics, in operation research, where you have different dynamic stopping criteria or dynamic stopping rules. So why we need a dynamic stopping rule, I will come to that. Where you want to stop and what is that stopping criteria, I will just give a very simple example and try to basically predict. Okay. Now what is written here I won't discuss immediately, I will come into a very simple example. Now when you use this, I suppose it's clear to everyone, so I have not included that in the slide. Consider you want to predict, and as a normal distribution, let us take the very simple case. If your variance is known or unknown, then your best predictor for the population mean is the sample mean, xn bar, and you solve your problem accordingly. Now if your population mean is known, then your best estimate for the standard error or the variance would be the case where you divide by 1 by n, and you solve the problems accordingly, find out the best estimate. If the population mean is unknown, then you divide by 1 by n minus 1, and in the bracket which is you replace the mean value with the sample mean, and again solve the problem. So these are unbiased and consistent, which has been proved in statistics time and again. So they are very known set results. Now this x bar n which is there would change as you change the scenario. So this x bar n which we know is the best estimate in the case when you have the quadratic loss function. But if you change the loss function, if you take the mod loss function, linear loss function, 0 1 loss function, Linux loss function, your best estimate would change because you are trying to basically change the coordinate system based on which you are trying to predict. So those results are also there in literature. So I would not go into that, I will just take one of the examples and try to basically solve the problem in order to make you understand. So the scenario is like this. We will use the very simple case of the Linux loss function and try to solve the problem, and as I am basically trying to solve the problem, I will also give you what would be the corresponding part if you had the ordinary least square. Ordinary least square is the quadratic loss function which we all know. Now consider that you want to predict, and why you want to predict? Because the loss which you are trying to find out is changing. Why it is changing? I pick up a sample, the sample is random. So if I find out x bar n, it will change from sample to sample. So it will have a distribution. If it has a distribution, it will basically have a mean value, it will have a variance, and so on and so forth. My main task here is not to predict what is the average value of xn bar, what is the variance of xn bar. I am not interested. What I am more interested is to find out that at each step when I do, I find out that what is the difference between the predicted value and the actual value, which is the difference between theta hat and theta, or beta hat and beta, or mu and xn bar. So in our case, consider that I am keeping it very simple. I want to find out that what is the difference between xn bar, which is the sample estimate for the population parameter, which is the normal distribution. Now if it is quadratic, we know that trying to basically find out the average loss, or in any case the average loss would basically be given by a value which is known as the risk. So risk is basically in the expected value of the loss. Our main task is that two things. We want to find out what is the expected value of the loss, point 1, and point number 2 is that we in the long run we will consider the expected loss is to be minimized. So it can be minimized by using using the partial differentiation. You try to minimize that with respect to the parameters and so on and so forth. But here I will basically not minimize that. I will try to bound that value within a certain range. Why I need to bound that? I am going to come that within a simple example. So consider the x1 to xn. Here now n is now fixed till now. Remember that it will keep, now it will change. So we are now basically keeping the value of n also as random. So it can be in the marketing case, I do not know what is the number of samples I want to take, or number of customers I want to basically predict, from whom I will get the feedback. So I need to get the feedback whether they are satisfied with the product, but I need to find out a random number. Or it may be possible that my overall budget, in this cases my overall budget is unlimited. So I can basically keep increasing small n to any value. So as I keep increasing n, my overall variance in the long run from the sample, as the sample is expanding, would slowly be more and more closer to the population. So my actual statistic which I am trying to utilize from the sample would exactly predict the population. I am very happy to do that. But consider that if the budget constraint is there, budgetary constraints are there, that means I have only 1 lakh rupees, I can only basically do a sample or sampling survey in north of India. So what effect does it have? Does it basically mean that I can take infinite set of observations small n, or is the number of observations small n is limited? So we will consider that also. So for the timing we will consider n to be fixed and then slowly change it. So consider x1 to xn as IID, and I am taking from the normal distribution. So it can be changed for any distribution. It can be exponential, it can be a convex combination of a normal distribution, it can be gamma distribution, it can be extreme value distribution. All these things are there, they are being proved with some good results. So I am taking this very simple case. Both mu and sigma square are unknown. We do not know. And we are required to estimate mu using the mu hat value, which is the sample mean. Now as I basically predict the sample mean, my main task is to find out the difference between the predicted value or estimated value and the actual value, which is x bar n minus mu. Consider if that is ln x loss. Consider for the time being. It can be replaced by a squared quadratic loss, it can be replaced by the 0-1 loss function, ln loss function, whatever it is. Now in that case, your actual value, what we want to find out is this. So this would be the loss function, this part, right? So I am taking a very simple scalar quantity. Now there are results for different type of loss functions if I take the expected value. So I will use all those results one at a time and then try to basically model it accordingly. So you did not prove it. So these are all available in the book.
That minus 1 is written here on this side. This equation.
1 minute. This one? This one? No, this is a loss function which has been utilized by Zellner, where if you remember,
And here I have also seen that -1.
minus 1 is there.
But why?
See, the minus 1 basically is brought into the picture in order to give the weightages of the exponential part and the linear part accordingly. If you expand this equation e to the power x, so if the first term is 1 here, second term is this one with a positive sign,
Okay, then minus.
so they cancel, such that if you only take the quadratic part, it is a quadratic loss function. If you want to dominate it with the cubic part, it becomes a cubic loss function. So you can basically taper it or tamper it accordingly, depending on what you think is right. But best would be you take either the Linux loss or the quadratic part only, where the first two terms are cancelled. Fourth term and higher, which is cubic and higher powers, are neglected, because if you consider theta hat minus theta is a very small quantity, so you take the quadratic loss and do the calculations accordingly. So this could have been a quadratic loss function also. It could have been a linear loss function also. It could have been a 0-1 loss function also. So I am just utilizing the case of the exponential loss function. In case, okay, I will come to that. I have not written it in the slide, but I will write it in the board. Okay. Now let us take the risk value. Risk value is basically the expected of the loss function. So if in case if you have the quadratic loss function, your actual risk would be like this. So your risk would basically be the expected value of the loss function. So I am again taking the prediction or the estimation of the mean value of the population from the normal distribution. So this mu hat, mu, so this is basically x bar n. So if I take the expected value and if I have this loss function, so this is replaced. So this becomes sigma square by n. Now the problem is, if sigma, so this is not, this would also lead to the same thing, but for the quadratic loss function it is very simple to understand. Consider sigma square is known, and then you want to, this is the risk, and you want to bind the risk. So how does the concept of binding the risk comes? Say for example, your total amount of money which you have for your doing your marketing survey is fixed. So the higher the amount of money, more number of observations you can take. Better would be the prediction, less will be the loss. So if you are able to take an infinite amount of money, so that in that case n would be tending towards infinity. If n tends to infinity, then that actual loss which you have written on the board would go towards 0. So what you are trying to do is that if you bind your overall risk, that means bind your total amount of money which you have, you will try to bind your overall values of the risk such that you want to predict the value of n, which will give you the exact value of that risk. So actually what we do is that you want to bind this value with a value of w. This w and that w which I have written are not the same. That value, weight, these w's were the weights, and this value is a given value of risk. Risk means the overall so-called under prediction, over prediction problem which you have. So lower the value of risk, lower would be the value of sigma square by n, which means that if sigma square is fixed, then n would basically be as large as possible. So what you want to find out actually is this. So you will try to find out, so in this case if I take n and convert it, so n should be here, this value, n is greater than sigma square by w. So now start decreasing w as small as possible. So small n will basically try increasing. So what we are actually trying to find out is this.
So what is n?
N is the sample size. the number of observations you want to take, because based on that you want to predict or forecast. Some sort of, yes, which can be done, like say for example, it is exactly not like that, but it can be made. Like in the same way, if you remember few minutes back I mentioned that the weights which you give are independent of theta, but you can make them dependent on theta. So you will have weights which are dependent on theta. Depending on the weights you formulate the problem accordingly. Here also the value of W would be dependent on the confidence interval of the beta or the alpha value. So for the timing I am considering them to be fixed, and later on I can also model it accordingly. Actually they are dependent on the values of betas and alphas only. That H naught and HA and how you basically model it. So if you consider this, actually what is required in your case would be to find out as W tends to 0, you want to find out some value of n. That is actually what you need, because as W is tending more towards 0, you are being much better in your prediction. You want to utilize that and find out the n value. So W means your overall budget is increasing, your prediction value is better, and hence your n value is increasing. But if you keep it fixed, you will get the practical value of that value of n. So you want to basically compare the value of n which you have in the practical sense with the theoretical value of n which it actually should be, and try to find out the differences of the sample size such that you are able to predict what is the overshooting and undershooting of the cost, and what is the prediction error or the estimation error which you have for theta as well as for g theta. Right. I will just close it here